Hey guys, this is Terminal Fire and this is a Raid Shadow Legends video. I am so excited. Tonight we begin the free-to-play 2025 adventure with Hell Hades Gaming. I managed to get in the content creator program, and in this guide we're going to go through all the champions you get, what promo codes you can use, and some of the champions that I'm going to be looking at, and decide which one I'm going to use for my promo code to start my game in this journey. Right, let's check out the rules on Hell Hades website. Competition starts tonight, 8 p.m. UTC, and lasts for 3 months. Amazing. They've got sponsors this year. So Raid have actually given them a promo code. We've got AMG, Method, Fateless, HH Gaming, and Min Max, all providing some sponsored prizes that you can get through a competition. It's free to play, so obviously no purchases. Using real currency anyway, real world currencies, no packs, no gem packs. Referral rewards, including referral champions, are not allowed, so you can't refer this account on to multiple other accounts to get the champions. Auto clickers are allowed to be used, so RSL Helper and other things like that. And you can go for any summonable champions, Alice promo code, so we'd be able to use the Wukong code to get Monkey King, for example. We've got all the creators listed on the board here. Feel free to go through all these guys and check out their videos. There's a lot of creators out there in this competition this year with a lot of great information. So just click on their names and then follow through to their channels and watch their videos. So once the leaderboards are live, you'll be able to show the leaderboards and see kind of where everyone sits. I'm sure that'll split into the two teams as well, because the creators have been put into two teams. The two teams this year, the content creators are going to be put into, so we've got Team Alice and Team Queen of Hearts. We're not sure which ones are going to be in yet. I'll probably find out later on today or by 8 p.m. tonight anyway, at least. So we've got the point system being outlined. So you can see the different points you can get for single point usage, campaigns, dungeons and the like, Doom Tower, etc. And then also, once you've started your account, so the two champions you're going to get on start are going to be Uugo and Tagoar. And then you can use a promo code. Again, Hell Hades website's got all the promo codes you need on it. They've all been checked by Hell Hades team. Great work, guys. I did a video on this a while back, but they've updated it since. So we've got a massive list. The list is just insane. Way bigger than when I checked in my video early this year. The ones I've sort of decided in potential to go with Uugo and Tagoar for me is Toragi the Frog, Sun Wukong, Mordecai, Mausoleum Mage, and we've got the Myciliac Priest Orn, and good old Stag Knight. So I'm going to talk through the kits we've got for Uugo, Tagoar, and I'm going to talk through the kits for the guys that I want to kind of nail it down. I want to find out who I'm going to use and for what reasons and why. So we're going to start with Uugo. Right, so let's check out Uugo's kit. So Uugo, Magic Affinity, Ogrian Tribes, 4.5 rating on Hell Hades. That's the overall rating. Good champion. I've got him on my main account, her on my main account. And as you can see from the ratings on Hell Hades website, useful pretty much everywhere. The only low point really is hard mode Fire Knight and Dreadhorn in Doom Tower, but everywhere else pretty strong, 3 and above. I'll take that. I've not used, I got Uugo late in my main account, so not really used her to her full ability at the moment, but she is becoming part of my main team for a few different areas. And part of it is this leech. So you've got a 35% chance of placing a leech debuff for 2 turns, but it increases for each alive enemy. So good in the start of the round to get them health back on your crew. Very useful. And then on the A2, which books down to 3 turns, we've got an AoE attack, 75% chance, 100% chance when booked of placing a 60% big boy decreased defense for 2 turns. Great usage, always helpful to kind of smash through their defense. Also has a 50% chance of placing a block buffs debuff for 2 turns. So that again, when that booked up, that's 75% chance for block buffs. That's great. And again, the chance increases for each live enemy. So once you've got that to 75% chance, you've got 4 enemies on the enemy team. So that's another 20%. You're looking at 95%. So you almost got a certain chance of blocking buffs, which is great. Uugo's Brew removes all heal reduction debuffs from all allies, then removes a random debuff from all allies, then heals all allies by 20% of this champion's max HP. If the allies are dead, revives them with 50% HP, then fills their turn meters by 50% instead. So it's 6 turn, full turn when booked, and the heal increases when you go through and book her up. That's great. I mean, it's not removing all debuffs, but it's still going to at least remove one on a 4 turn. And the fact that it can revive them as long as she's the last one alive is brilliant. I mean, you've got to make her tanky, obviously, so she's going to have a lot of defense, a lot of HP. But the chances are she's going to be the last one alive, and then she can just bring everyone back on a 4 turn. Then she's got a passive as well, 5 turn cooldown on this one, places a 30% increased speed buff and a block damage buff on this champion for 1 turn whenever this champion's last living ally is killed. So this goes hand in hand with Uugo's Brew. So if you're the last one alive on your team, you get a pump of speed and you get block damage. So they ain't going to kill you unless they rip that off you, which is brilliant. Or you've got a boss maybe that goes through block damage. That's brilliant. So you're likely to have a live team for most content, as long as you build a tanky and speedy, so you can get through those moves quickly. Great champion. So we're going to get Uugo day 1, level 1. Right, let's look at Tagoar. Orc, magic affinity, 4-star rating on hellhades.com. Tagoar's someone I've never used before, never managed to get them on the main account, so it would be great to see them in action. Again, they're pretty solid around Clan Boss, Hydra, Doom Tower, Amius. In the normal dungeons, they're looking pretty solid as well, which is useful. And some of the Doom Tower areas, they're strong, but they are a little bit weak on some of the bosses, but that should be okay. Yeah, worst on Iron Twins and Shogun Grove. Anything above sort of 3-star is fine for a starter account, I would say personally, until you start getting your roster built bigger. And 3.5 in the dungeon, PvP. So let's look at the kit. So we got a aura, increases ally HP in all battles by 25%. Useful for HP champs, obviously, and keeping people alive. We got the magic stick. Attacks one enemy twice, places 60% increased defense buff for 2 turns on the ally with the lowest current HP. So that's trying to keep that person alive, which is great. And it's the big boy one as well. And it's 2-turn hit. So we got the A2 is a charge can't. 5 turns comes down to 3 with books. Attacks all enemies, places 30% increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns, then heals all allies by 15% of this champion's max HP. Again, another champion one we're making quite tanky to get that most out of that heal. And it increases again by another 20% there. A3, Rise and Fight. 7 turn books down to 5. Revives all dead allies with 30% HP. Also places a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns that equal to 20% of this champion's max HP. Another reason to build them tanky. Brings them back alive. There's no 10 meter on that, but at least they will have a shield on them to protect them for the other people to have a go. The other team to have a go on against them. It's on a 5-turn cooldown. So with Uugo and with Tagoar, we've got some great survivability. And we've also got a passive on this guy, Aid the Feeble. Decreases the damage received by allies with 50% HP or less by 10%. So he's going to give you a bit more sort of protection as well, which is great. So I'm looking forward to using Tagoar, testing him out, seeing how he works. It's going to be fun. So now we'll take a look at the optional champions I can get by promo code, and I'm going to try and make my decision as I go through their kits. I'm going to start with Toragi the Frog. So he is a Shadowkin. Another magic affinity, 4-star rating. So at the moment, the chances, all the starter champions are magic affinity. And we've also got Uugo as magic affinity and Tagoar as magic affinity. So I don't know if I want to try and stay away from more magic affinity people, just so I've not got the core of my team all magic affinity. That's something I need to bear in mind when I go through this. He's HP champion epic, as we all know. So Toragi the Frog, again, not had him on my main account, so I'm not a massive. I've not used him in a kit, so I'm not sure the best way to build him at the moment, but could be exciting either way. So looking at his ratings, we've got him being really strong in Clan Boss, that's the poisons, and really strong in the normal dungeons. Weakest on the spider one. Sand Devil and Shogun Grove are weakest there, but they're not going to be something I'm going to be concentrating on initially. So hopefully by the time I get to those, if I need to, I'll be having a decent team behind me. And then Doom Tower, he looks pretty strong, apart from Darkfang and Nether Spider, but pretty good against the rest. And 2.5 in the arena. So let's have a look at his kit now. So we got increased ally resistance in all battles by 40%. That's useful in arena. Useful to stop things being dropped on you. Could be good. So we've got, at the moment, we've got Uugo with no aura and Tagoar with a HP aura. So I'm just looking at the potential other auras I could be using. Resistance, protect my guys from having things dropped on them, could be useful. His A1 Swamp Club attacks one enemy, has a 30% chance of placing a 50% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. Keeps my guys alive for longer, stops people hitting me so hard. Buff chance goes up to 40%. So it's a single hit, 40% chance. So yeah, it's alright. Potent Stench is 4 turns, books down to 3, attacks all enemies, has a 50% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn. So 50% chance, it stays at 50%, there's no booking that one up. The chance increases by 5% for each debuff on the enemy team. So if we drop a lot of debuffs on them, then we're going to get an increase in that one. Let's have a look. So Uugo is going to be dropping a leech potentially on her A1, but on one enemy, all enemies. So they should have potentially a decreased defense, block buffs from Uugo, nothing from Tagoar, but not going to get him to level 25. So Toragi could be useful at the start. That could go up to, if you're looking at an extra 15. So if you've got 4 people on the team and they've got 3 debuffs each, that should be enough to get that provoke sorted. Yeah, should be good. And we've got Bog Blessing, 5 turn, books down to 3. This one does quite a lot of places. Shield buff equal to 15% of this champion's max HP. So another tanky champion we need to build. And more healing coming in. Well, protection, sorry, not healing. And a 50% ally protection buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. Also heals this champion by 25% of their max HP and places a 30% reflect damage buff on them for 2 turns. Okay, so Toragi's going to shield up your guys, put ally protection on them, and then heal himself, him, not her. Stick on a reflect damage, and the heal increases by 2.5% for each poison debuff on the enemy team. So Kel's going to be dropping poisons on them. And Toragi himself does poisons. His poisons are applied via his passive, Toxic Blood. So I'm just going to skip to that. So when attacked, has a 50% chance of placing 5% poison debuff on the attack for 2 turns. It goes once per hit. 50% chance. So if you've got someone hitting you multiple times, you've got multiple chances of dropping those poisons on. The more poisons you get on there, the more healing you get as a champion. Ooh. So we've got some nice survivability there on that champion. Nice dropping of poisons on there and a provoke, which is quite useful. And it's a provoke on everyone. Interesting. I want to try Toragi out. Right, let's move on to Sun Wukong. Everyone knows Sun Wukong, right? Skinwalker, Spirit Affinity, 4-star rating, attack champion. So at the moment, everything we looked at has been support, HP, survivability. Sun Wukong will bring that high level of attack into your team. Great in arena, but does need to be pushed a bit to get some decent damage and the ability for him to pop back up when he gets knocked down. So he's weak in Clan Boss, good in Hydra because of his ability to pop back up and rip things off. Good in Doom Tower, good against Spider because he's got multiple hits. Fire Knight, Dragon and Ice Golem, relatively good. Hard mode he's pretty weak in. Iron Twins, Sand Devil and Shogun he's weak in. And then in Doom Tower, he's good against Dreadhorn Boss, Frost Spider, Eternal Dragon, Celestial Griffin, Magma Dragon, Scarab and Nether and Dark Phase weak, yeah. Arena rolls, 5 out of 5. Yeah, you can't really fault Sun Wu in Arena. So let's look. He's got Aura that increases ally speed in Arena by 28%. So it's only useful in the Arena teams. Then he's got his A1 Gotcha. Attacks one enemy, has a 25% chance of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn. The chance increases to 50% if the target has any buffs. Okay, so stun's useful, locks them out for an entire go. Can only be pulled off by their team using a debuff removal. Or any special skills that some have got. And the buff chance goes up to 50%. So that will increase to 75 if the target's got any buffs. It's a strong hit. Staff of Wonder. 4 turn comes down to 3. Attacks one enemy, will ignore 50% of the target's defense. That's why it's so strong. Will attack all remaining enemies with any surplus damage if the target is killed. So go for the weakest person. And any additional damage that's used over the amount to kill them then reflects onto the other people. Not reflects, but goes onto the people. This attack will also ignore 50% of the target's defense, so it ignores their defense as well. Cannot be critical. If the initial target survives, places a sheep debuff for 1 turn, the debuff cannot be blocked. That's a really good attack. Saved my skin a lot of times in Arena, that one actually. A3, now you see us. 4 turn, books down to 3. Attacks all enemies. Before attacking, steals all buffs from all enemies and then places a block buffs debuff on them for 2 turns. That is what makes the champion so great as well. Can pull every buff they've got on them onto himself as long as he's not got block buffs on him. But even if he's got that on, he still rips it off them, which means they're not able to utilize it. So you're pulling off your increased attack. You're pulling off your increased defense. You're pulling off things like block damage. Strong case for Sun Wukong for arena content. And then you've got his passive, which you need to get him to 3 stars to use. Revives his champion with 100% HP and 100% turn meter 3 turns after they were killed. Oh. So if he pops back up and he's got his A2 available and you've got someone on the other team with low health, you've won the battle almost. Guaranteed. Great champion, very useful. Even going through campaign, I find him useful in the past where I've used him. Yeah, just an overall great champion. Right, let's move on to Mordecai, my next option. So Mordecai, Sacred Order, Force Affinity, 4-star rating. So Mordecai, again, another champion I've not used. I'm trying to choose champions I've not used before to increase my knowledge of how they work and to just get better at the game. As I think most people doing the free-to-play, that's the kind of aim of it, isn't it? So Mordecai, not too good in Clan Boss, good against Hydra, 5 stars Hydra. Doom Tower, Iron Twins, okay. All the dungeons seems pretty okay on normal level. Drops off a bit on hard, but is still great for Spider and Ice Golem by the look of it. Doom Tower, he's pretty good apart from Magma Dragon and Dreadhorn. Yeah, you don't want to put your burns on them and give him health. Everywhere else, Celestial Gushion's 2.5. But most of the other ones are pretty good, and 3 in the arena as an attack champion. He's got an aura of ally accuracy in all battles by 40%, useful for landing your debuffs. None of us had that, that's good. So A1, Purgatory, attacks one enemy, has a 30% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 10%, has a 60% instead if the target is under a HP burn debuff. So that books up to 45% chance and a 75% chance if the target's under a burn. So turn meter control's great. Use it for a lot of bosses. 10% isn't a massive amount, but it's still 10% turn meter. 1/10 of their turn meter will be knocked off. And it's 30% chance, 45% chance. So, okay, so you want people burning before you use your A1. So you want high accuracy on it. Okay, right, times undoing A2. 4 turns, books down to 3. Has a 75% chance of decreasing the turn meters and all elements by 15%. Okay, so he's doing more turn meter on his A2. Fills the turn meters of all allies by 15%. Okay, he's pumping his own team as well. And the debuff chance goes up by 25%, so that's going to be a 100% chance of decreasing the turn meters by 15%. Okay, so we've got more turn meter manipulation. Don't currently have that on the team. And day 3, Heavenly Flames, 5 turns, books down to 4. Has a 75% chance, which books to 100, of placing a burn debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. Places a 50% increased attack buff on all allies for 3 turns. Cool. So he's burning his enemies and he's increasing the attack of your team. Okay, so at the moment, if I went with Mordecai, we'd have the burn capabilities, the turn meter control. Increasing the attack at the moment wouldn't really do a lot for the rest of our team because we don't have a nuker on the team. Oh, it's interesting. I really want to try this guy out. Him and Toragi are probably the top 2 that I want to try out. Right, let's move on to Mausoleum Mage. So Mausoleum Mage is Undead Hordes, Force Affinity, 4-star overall rating. So I use Mausoleum Mage a lot with my Seer team at the moment for wiping waves. They just partner so well. Thanks to Ash for the heads up on this one. So Mausoleum Mage is good against all the dungeons, 4-star and above. That's solid. Drops off a bit in hard mode, but that's fine. Sand Devil is 2.5, and Hydra is 2.5. So Clan Boss is 3. So he wouldn't get into the. He'd be in the Clan Boss team initially because I would have a limited number of champions, but he would probably drop off quite quickly. Bad in Dark Fae, but everywhere else he looks pretty strong. And 3.5 in the arena. No aura, so let's look at his skills. A1, Soul Manacles attacks 1 enemy, has a 30% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. 30% chance books up to 50% chance. So, slowing an enemy down, useful. Might of Undeath, 4 turns, books down to 3, places 30% increased crit rate buff and 60% increased defense on all allies for 2 turns. Also places a block debuffs buff on all allies for 1 turn. Okay, so it's only 1 turn, but it's a lot of buffs being dropped on you. Increased crit rate could be useful because then it comes down on a 3 turn, and then on for 2 turns, so you don't need to necessarily build as much crit into your team, depending on when you're cycling your turns, and you get the increased defense. But we've already got increased defense on the team, but the block debuffs could be useful. 5 turn, so Winds of Purging the A3, 5 turns, books down to 4. So the buff stripper removes all debuffs from all allies, then heals all allies by 10% of this champion's max HP. Heals each ally by a further 10% if 1 or more debuffs are removed from that ally. Fills each ally's turn meter by 15% if 2 or more debuffs are removed from that ally. Okay, so he's a stripper of debuffs, and the amount of debuff he strips off will improve the turn meter fill you get and the amount of healing you get. So he's a solid champion. So we already have a small strip from Uugo being able to pull off 1 debuff. On their A3, yes. Removes all heal reduction and then a random debuff. Okay. So this would be a full strip. I think he's kind of, for me, he's putting on the decreased speed as well, which is great. I think he's probably got too much overlap between Uugo. So I'm probably going to discount Mausoleum Mage. And I mean, if I pull a Seer, I'm going to be very annoyed. But I think I can discount him, so I'm going to get rid of him. Sorry, Mausoleum Mage. Right, let's move on to Myciliac Priest Orn. He's Sylvan Watchers, Spirit Affinity, 4-star overall rating. I've got him on my main account. I've only recently started armoring him properly and using him. But at the moment, he's still only, I think, at level 50 on my account. So, looking at his ratings, he's good at Dragon, good at Ice Golem, poor on Spider, poor on Fire Knight. Good for Clan Boss, good for Doom Tower. But he's quite weak. Hydra, Amius, Iron Twins, Sand Devil, Shogun Grove. A lot of those I don't care about initially in the game. Dragon's useful for farming a lot of good gear. Ice Golem also. And Clan Boss obviously is going to be a high priority for my team. Doom Tower, looks like I shouldn't use him at all in Doom Tower, apart from Scarab King and possibly the Eternal Dragon. And Arena, he's quite poor. So what we got? His skills. Spore Stick. Attacks one enemy twice. Each hit has a 15% chance of placing a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns. That books up to 25% chance of placing a 5% poison. So 2 hits, 25% chance. So there's a 50% chance you're not going to get anything on those with 2 hits. Okay. A2, Erupting Growth, 4 turns, books down to 3, attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 75% chance of instantly activating 5% poison debuff on the target. That's strong. Books up to 100% chance of instantly activating. They're going to have poisons on them if we're using Kale, which I will be my start champion. I don't see me using anyone else. The A3, the colony expands, 4 turns, books down to 3, attacks all enemies, has a 50% chance of placing 2 5% poison debuffs and a 25% poison sensitivity debuff for 2 turns. Heals his champion by 1% of their max HP for each poison debuff placed by this skill. That books up to 75% chance. 20%. And the poison sensitivity will then double the damage those give. So if we've got Kale dropping on some, we've got this guy dropping on some, and then firing a poison sensitivity on them. His A2 activates the poisons. Only activates one of them, okay. Doesn't activate all of them, just activates one. So by the time we've got through a cycle, everyone should have poison on them. Then he activates it on his A2, but you want the A3 to fire first. So I'll still have them because they're 2-turn poisons. Could be useful. Mycelium is his passive. Whenever a poison debuff is activated on an enemy, increases this champion's HP and defense by 5%. Stacks up to 25. Resets each round. Okay, so basically giving him a pump of 25%. That'll be quite quick again if Kale's on the team. So that'll make him tanky as well. Oh, that's another compelling argument to have him on your team. Right, let's move on to our final champion that we can get a code for. Stag Knight. He is Bannerlord's Spirit Affinity, 4-star rating. I've got him on my main account. I pulled him, it was probably one of the first epics I pulled on my account. It was a great pull. Used him a lot in the initial game. Still use him a little bit now, but he's definitely dropped off in favour of some legendaries I've got. So he's pretty solid throughout the entire game. Good for most of the bosses, 4 stars and above in dungeons, sorry. Clan boss is 3.5. Hydra, Amius is 3. Sand Devil 3. Shogun Grove. So a solid champion throughout all areas of the game. He was in my arena team for a long time. Doom Tower boss, he's good against them all. Oof. No aura, but his A1, we've got Spot Quarry. Attacks one enemy twice. Each hit has a 30% chance of placing 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. So we don't have anyone dropping any speed at the moment. The buff increases to, where we're looking at, each has a 30% chance, 40, 50% chance. So each has a 50% chance of hitting when he's booked. Does come in handy. Only on one enemy. Huntmaster, A2, attacks all enemies. Has a 70% chance when booked, 95%, of placing a 60% decreased defense debuff and a 50% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. Very useful. Books down to 3 turns. This one's been useful in the past. A3, lead the pack. Is it not passive? Places a 50% increased accuracy buff on an ally for 1 turn each time the ally has a debuff resisted by an enemy. So you try and put something on, gets resisted, they get the increased accuracy buff, 50% increased accuracy. So the next time they try it, they're going to get it on there. That's useful for A1s that drop things on. Obviously, your other A2s and 3s normally have cooldowns or will have cooldowns, so less useful for those to kind of drop them on there. So if for instance, let's go for, sorry, Toragi. So on his A3, no, he doesn't got any. On his A2, if he tries to put the provoke on there and they resist it, it's got a 3-turn cooldown before he gets back to it. So it's more to do with this one, sort of decrease attack, but still useful. Not saying it's a bad thing. Just got to remember it's not going to be on there for a long time unless you've got a buff extender, which we don't have on this account. So those are the champions. Stag Knight is a strong guy all the way through the start of the game, definitely. Right, so with all those champions reviewed and looked at, Uugo, Tagoar, Toragi, Wukong, Mordecai, Myciliac and Stag Knight all being in the mix, who do I think I'm going to choose and why? Good question. The ones I really want to choose are champions I've not used before, because the whole point, the thing I get from the free-to-play events is using champions I haven't got, seeing how they work, and exploring some of the lower level champions. So most of my time gets spent on the new legendaries that we pick up or the fusions that we make. You don't necessarily look back at some of the older champions and go, oh, maybe I should build out Toragi the Frog or Mordecai, or why would I want to get them? So this experience allows us to do that. And that's kind of what I'm finding with Myciliac Priest Orn on my main account at the moment. I've just decided to build him. In Faction Wars I use him, and he's really starting to do some decent damage. Is that something I want on the account now? Good question. I think I'm going to discount everyone apart from Toragi and Mordecai. Wukong will be useful in Arena. Myciliac Priest and Stag Knight, I've already got them. So in the whole point of this is to use champions I don't have. So I've got to go for Toragi or Mordecai. Do I want more poisons? Do I want burns? And turn meter. I think I'm going to go for Mordecai. I think I've decided Mordecai, because of the burns, because of the turn meter control he has. I'm going to do it. Mordecai is my choice. Force Affinity, Sacred Order, good amount of base speed, 100. Let's do it. That's what I'm going to choose. Let me know what you guys are going to choose. If you're playing the free-to-play event, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Tail on Fire out.